Since Express is a node program, we're going to start by initializing a package JSON with our default values by just using npm init-y. And now we can install Express, and we'll use the -S flag so that gets saved to our package.json, and we have that dependency, recorded. We're going to create an index.js file, and then we'll go and look at that and see how we initialize our Express application. So if we require Express here, that's going to actually give us a function reference. And so to create our app instance, we're just going to call that function. So Express with the parentheses on the end. And now we have an instance of an Express app. And so the most basic call here is going to be app.get with just a slash. So that's essentially saying, Express, when you get an HTTP GET request to the root path, we want you to call this function that we're going to give you. And you'll see that the two arguments that we pass in are rec and res, or request and result. And basically to send data back to the browser or whoever's calling this, we're just going to say result.send hello world, and then we're going to start our application by telling it to listen on port 3000. So if we now go back to our terminal and start up index.js, we can see that we can go in our browser, load up localhost 3000, and we do in fact get hello world returned. So it would be nice to have a little bit of feedback in the terminal usually when you start that server, so that you sort of know what's going on. So we're going to create a server variable, and then we're going to give it a callback function when we call listen, so that we know when that server has started up. And in this case, we're just going to log out a message that says, hey, there's a server running at, whatever port it is that we are starting up on. So if we save that and then go back to our terminal, we can kill the server that was still running and then restart it. And we now see our message that tells us that our server is in fact running on port 3000. Now, one thing that's sort of a best practice, or at least a convention in the Node ecosystem, is that when you're dealing with a server application, you're generally going to want to create a npm start command that will start up your server. That way people don't have to know, which file it is that gets used, any possible arguments that are involved. So we're going to create an npm start script here in our package.json. And now we can call npm start. You can see that it is in fact just calling node index.js, and that gets our server running just the same as before. We can go ahead and kill that. And you'll notice that every time we make a change and we want to sort of restart things, that we have to kill that server. And during development, that can get really annoying really fast. And so what we're going to do is we're going to install a package called nodemon, which will essentially let us set up a file watch so that when any of the files in our project change, it's going to restart that server. And while that's installing, we're going to set up a dev npm script that just runs nodemon and passes it the index.js file. So now we can run npm run dev, and it's going to run that nodemon call and start up our server. So you can now see that if we go and change our file and save that, you get the server restarting automatically in the terminal. And this makes it a whole lot easier to work and be productive, as you're sort of trying things out and developing. So now we can go back and make changes at will and not have to worry about restarting that server in between each time. And so sort of just to show, the next most basic thing in Express, we can tell it, when you get a HTTP GET request to the /yo path, we want you to call this handler instead of the other one, and we're just going to send back yo. So our server restarted automatically for us. We can go try out that URL, and so we do in fact get a different response.